$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES.
Only on the Super NES.
You're listening to the SNES broadcast with your hosts, Soul Blazer and George.
Hello, everybody. This is Super NES Podcast. I am Greg. He is George. This is episode number 136 coming at you this time. And George, how you doing today?
Oh, geez, you just threw the format out the window and you messed everything up. Oh, geez, what's going on?
One must stay fresh and change things up every now and then, lest you become boring.
Okay, I agree with that. You really caught me off guard with that.
But yeah, anyway, George obviously seems like he's okay. So,
Okay, enough.
yes. So, we are looking at a game this time around that's a sentimental favorite of mine. So, I was curious to see how it held up all these years later, which can be a dangerous thing to do. But, you know, I still wanted to go back and play it and see what I thought of it in 2020. So, man,
Oh, no. Don't remind me what year it is.
Yeah, I'm not used to saying that yet. We're getting way into the future here, for sure. But
We're going back to the future.
yes,
I don't know what that means.
well, that was last
5 years
year.
too late on that one.
Well, last year, but you know, like close enough. So, yes, we're looking at the action RPG game Lagoon this time around, which was an early game for the Super NES, published by Kemco Sika. So, as I said before, I have a lot of history with this game. I played it shortly after it came out, and whatnot. Whereas I'm pretty sure that George said he never played this game, much less heard of it. So,
I've heard of it because I've seen. Oh, geez, it was on Awesome Games Done Quick, like in 2012 or something like that.
2016, I found a speedrun of it that they did. So,
Oh, they did in 2016 as well?
yeah, yep. This is actually
Pretty sure there was an earlier. I don't know. Whatever. Go on.
Well, yeah, you're probably right because I was surprised to see this is actually a very popular game to speedrun. There's a lot of people on, there's several videos. There's several videos on YouTube that talk about speedrunning this game. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, there are communities that play or speedrun like games you've never even heard of before that like nobody knows about, and it's like, wait, this is a game,
right?
And like 100 people speedrun it. Weird.
Indeed. So, we have not covered a game like Kemco Sika yet because Kemco Sika did not publish many games on the Super NES. There was this game, and there was Draken, which kind of like which is a very computer-like RPG. So,
Yeah.
And that's really about it for the company. So, they're more known for their NES stuff. So we will get into a little bit of the history here on this. Kemco Sika was actually an alliance. There were two separate companies who just agreed to work together to publish their stuff in North America. Kind of like, this has been done before, before in the past. For example, Square and Electronic Arts had a partnership for a while. And currently Squaresoft has a partnership with a Taito, where Squaresoft publishes their mobile games. So,
yes.
Kemco is the bigger company here because Kemco was actually the one who actually produced the game in Japan and Europe. So we'll talk about Kemco a little bit here. This is actually an abbreviation. The actual name of the company is, and this is in Japanese, so I'm going to try my best here. Kotobuki Engineering and Manufacturing Company is the actual full name of the company. They are a video game subsidiary of Kotobuki Engineering and Manufacturing Company Limited, which is back in 1979. in Japan. The video game company branch of that, Kemco, was founded back in 1984. So they've been around for quite a long time. So because of their so like in the late 80s, because the company didn't have a very big presence in North America, they formed a partnership with another corporation, Sega Corporation, to be able to help them to get their games and get their games into a broader market or whatnot. So most of so all the games that they released in the late 80s during 90s was under the Kemco Sega brand, like this game is. They're probably best known also like for the so-called Mac Venture series of games.
Oh yeah.
They're called that because the game originally came out on the Macintosh before they got NES ports. Those games were Shadowgate, Deja Vu, and Uninvited. Shadowgate being a very, very popular game. So that's probably like that game, and also the Top Gear franchise, which Kemco publishes for the. They're actually those games are actually developed by an English company called Gremlin Graphics, but Kemco is always the publisher of those games. So the Top Gear franchise and Shadowgate is probably what Kemco best known for. So they had two North American branches. The first branch was around 1981 to 2000, and the second branch was around 2001 to 2007. They still publish games in North America, but they're done through Kemco Japan now these days. They're mostly mobile games these days, but they do still release some stuff for the Wii and the Wii U and the PS on the PS4. So
honestly, at this point, you don't really need a North American office because you could take care of everything over in Japan and everything.
Exactly.
You have the internet. You can talk to the people you need to talk to get things done. A lot of business has been done like this, at least with video game companies now.
Sure. Yep.
Where they might outsource. Well, there's a lot of places to outsource translations to, but yeah, it's really changed because you don't really need a North American office to take in the game and then translate it for you.
Sure.
You could just hire a company to do it because there are companies that just do that now.
Exactly. Yep. So I did not know the history of Kemco. Kemco went back that far. This makes them actually one of the oldest video game, Japanese-based at least. The video game company still still developing publishing games today. So,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Aren't they just doing mobile games now though?
Well, like I said, mostly mobile games, but they're also doing some stuff, on the consoles also.
Right.
Let me just pull over here real quick. I had a list earlier, and I probably should have kept it up about
maybe you should have. You think how many episodes are we in, and you still didn't think of keeping that list up?
So their most recent games, let's see, 2019 games. They've got quite the list. They've got Bond of the Skies, which is a multi-platform game.
Right.
Framed Dragoon's Odyssey, which is for the PC, Vita, PS4, and Xbox One. Let's see.
That's the other thing. You're starting to see a lot more ports of games to PC.
Yes. Yep.
And it's strange because some of these games don't even have home console releases, and then they'll release it on PC, and it's like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Right. Yep. Quite a few games released last year for multiple systems. Illusion of Malaysia, Arclean Saga, Monochrome Order, Wizards of Brendel.
I don't think I've heard of any of these.
They've also been releasing stuff. They've also started releasing collections like their older games.
I think a lot of companies have been starting to do that now.
Yeah.
I know Square Enix somewhat recently released the Mana series in one package. That's $60 or something on the Switch, and it's like, whoa, hold on. I'll buy it, but also, whoa, hold on. Too much money, guys.
So 2017, they
might be less than that, but
so in 2017 they also released what I assume is a kids game. They found this title, called Mom Hid My Game.
Oh yeah, you know what? I've heard of this game.
It came out for the Switch and for the 3DS.
Yeah. That's where I saw on the Switch. I was like, what the heck is this?
Great name though. But
Stop playing those video games.
Yeah.
Do your homework.
Yes, based upon this, they're mostly doing RPGs these days, but their games, with their games store getting released in multiple platforms, and a lot of stuff in North America. I mean, there's very little, there's very little stuff here. There's very little stuff here that's like Japan only. So
hey, that's where I live, North America. Oh no, I doxed myself.
Well, I think by now that that we're fine with that. So, all right. So, Sega Corporation, their partner for a while, was a lot harder to find information on. Partly because of the fact that Sega is no longer around, but there are other companies that are using there are other companies that are using their name in Japan and other places. So, that made research of the company pretty hard to find. Best I could locate was Sega was a company that had both under Japan. They were Japanese also. They had both the Japanese and North American branch. They were around in the 80s and 90s. They were primarily known in Japan for publishing European-based computer games. So they take these computer games that came out in Europe, translate them, and localize them for the market in Japan, and release them that way.
That sounds okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. Because there was a good PC market for a while in Japan.
There still is to some degree. So
actually, I think we talked about this before on some kind of podcast.
Probably.
But I think the PC market in Japan is actually growing too. I believe that is true. I think I've read that somewhere.
Oh. And Sega did publish their own games, but they didn't really do as much or was well known as Kemco was. So the partnership is pretty much how they're known today. So the company that developed Lagoon was a company called Zoom Incorporated, which was a Japanese video game company founded in 1988. They mostly started off by making games for the very popular. I know we've talked about this before. Again, like you just said, George. I know we've talked about this on the podcast. I think it may have been the PlayStation podcast. There was a very popular Japanese computer system known as the X68000 by Sharp. That was it was a very popular Japanese gaming computer system. Zoom started off life by making games for that system. And then later they started branching out to other systems like the Famicom, the PlayStation, the Sega Saturn, the Dreamcast, the PS2, etc., etc. So they're listed. So they're listed still being active. However, their last game appears to have been back in 2010. So I really don't know how active they still are. The website's still going and whatnot, so who knows? But most of their games did not get released over here in North America. So they did, however, publish the very cult series Mr. Mosquito. Have you heard of those games?
Oh, that game.
Yeah. So that was a Zoom game. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep. So.
Wow, that's an interesting game right there.
It is, yes. They also published they also made the Zero Divide games. Have you heard about those?
No, what's that?
It was it's a fighting game. There were two games in the series. First game came out for the PlayStation and Saturn. The second game came out for the PS. The second game also came out with the PlayStation.
Okay.
So. Oh, and they also. I forgot about this. We may have talked about Zoom before in the past because they actually did. And I totally forgot this. They actually developed a game we have talked about before in the past. On this podcast, Phalanx.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Banjo old man guy.
Yes. I forgot that was a developed by Zoom, published by Kemco game. So we have covered. So we have talked about Kemco a little bit before in the past, but it's okay. So
I've had some weird nights where I look at that art and I still don't know what's going on.
So as I mentioned before, Zoom got their start development games for the Sharp X68000, and actually this is a port of a game that came out originally on the X68000. This game originally came out in Japan on that system back in September of 1990. And then later on, the following year, the game was ported over to Super NES, with the Japanese version the Japanese and the North American versions coming out in December of 1991. Like I said, very early Super NES game, at least for North American standards. And then it came out, like the game came out in Europe in May of 1993, so like a year and a half later before it came out in Europe. But at least they got the game eventually, right?
Right? I still don't understand why it takes so long.
The market was not as big for video games over there for a long time. I'm sure I've talked about this. Computers are the primary market in Europe, in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, the microcomputers.
Right.
And
Consoles were always secondary. So that kind of stuff. So also the fact that there'd be extra. There'd be extra publishing costs because you have to include a manual printed in 5 or 6 languages.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But yeah, just a lot more hassle, a lot more expense. So
it's weird because what was it? When I was doing like Master System masterpieces and all that stuff, they'd be like, "This was released in it was released in England, the United States, Japan, and like Italy and Germany." And it's like, oh, not all of Europe. So like some of the games had like select countries they would release in. Like sometimes it was just France and England and the US. And it's like, okay. All right, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, Nintendo actually had back in the 80s. Nintendo actually had three different regions in Europe. And so the game. And so it had to be changes each game and each game format for release in those regions, because there was the British office, there was the Northern European office, which included like France and Germany, and then there was the Southern European office, which included like Spain and Italy. So
you know what's strange? There's also like some games from Japan that have been like, I can only think of one example, but there are some games that are like Scandinavian only that they like brought to. So like it'd be like Japan and like Sweden, Finland, and so on and so forth, somewhere around there. And it's like, I can only think of one example, and it's that one game Gimmick, which is actually a really good game, but really tough. And like the only like NES version of that game is like from Scandinavia, because they only released like a copy outside of Japan, right, to some Scandinavian countries, and it's like so weird. Like, why?
Yeah, I don't know
if it was like some kind of test market or what.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So no, interesting. But
nowadays,
oh yeah, nowadays moot point,
basically because, everyone gets in, and if your country doesn't get it, you just go online and you set yourself up from a different country or something to buy it and then download it anyway.
Exactly. So it's
so different now.
Yep, pretty easy. So
yeah. Hey, nowadays you could go and get some games that didn't come over here.
Exactly.
And some people translated them.
Yep.
Like, all right, sure.
So as I mentioned before, this is an action RPG game. It plays very similar to games like the Zelda games, the Mana games, the early Ys games, where it's like
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah. This game definitely kind of feels like an earlier Ys game, but with like less difficulty.
Yes. So it is a top-down game. We basically are going around the map, exploring areas, fighting enemies, going to towns, doing quests, that kind of stuff. You gain experience, and you gain experience like you level up by beating enemies. You also get gold to purchase better weapons, armor, and items. You have magic you can use, and you pick up like various magical spells as you go through the game. You get your basic sword and shield. That's your main form of combat. So yeah, like I said, a lot of similarities with like other like action RPG games like this sort.
It's so strange because this game, when you level up, does not let you know that you leveled up, But every time you open a chest, you have to sit there for 5 to 10 seconds, whatever it is. Wait for the little tune, just for it's like, hey, you got like 10 gold. All right, thanks. Let me play the game. Like, when I was playing this game, I'm really bad with stuff with leveling in the way of, I always need to know how much I need, and I need to know if I've leveled up or not. And this game doesn't let you know, other than like, oh hey, my player bar is a little bit bigger now. Yeah, you have to go to the menu screen to see what your actual there's no thing that says level up. There's no little tune that plays. Nothing. It's just like, oh, congratulations, you leveled up. Now keep playing the game. All right, thanks. I think it's a holdover. I think it's a holdover, like from being the holdover, like the original computer version. There are differences between the two of them. We'll talk about those like a little bit, but yeah, you're right, because the interface is very, very basic. You just have the player bar that George was talking about with your hit points. Obviously, when that bar runs out, you're dead. When you face bosses, the enemy gauge lights up. Kind of shows you how much damage you have to do to beat the enemy. When you attack an enemy, it'll show their health as well.
Yep, that too. Yep. And then you also have it also shows you your MP points. It also shows you two picture icons in the top of in the bottom right corner. One of which is the item you currently hold, and the other item is your and the other one is your selected magic. So anything else, so if you want to like switch between items or spells or whatnot, you have to go into the title the status screen to see that stuff and change over. So like George said, the interface has some problems, but once you get used to it, it works. So.
No, it's not the interface being a problem. It's just that I'd really like to know if I leveled up. That's it. Oh, and the other thing is, don't keep me on those chests. Thanks for giving me 10 gold. I don't need to sit there 10 seconds and revel in the beauty of 10 gold pieces.
Right. So this being a very early Super NES game and being also a port of an older computer game, the graphics are very basic. I mean they're fine. They look nice, but they're not very.
This does remind me of a computer game.
Yeah.
Like a early '90s computer game.
Right. So yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Yeah. The graphics are very basic. Like the colors. The colors are kind of bland and muted.
Well, the thing is, they kind of made it like a chibi-esque. They made it kind of like small and cutesy in a way. So like, it definitely gets away with it. Whereas if the art direction was like the people doing the art were really bad and they were trying to do like things that look super realistic and it just looked awful. Yeah. Like this style holds up much better than, I mean, you also have the like when you talk to certain people, they have the close-ups on their faces, which is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
They look pretty good in this game. But
Yep, exactly. Like the enemies are small, but they do have some like but as George just mentioned, they do have some very like cutesy detail to them, which is nice. You better get used to looking at your character's cape. As he walks, because you're going to be seeing a lot of his backside this game.
Yeah.
The bosses, however, look great. The bosses have some very some nice graphical detail to them. Controls are pretty basic. I mean, just the pad to move around, the buttons do your swinging and your attacks and whatnot. Very basic. Not very game you need the manual for.
Feels like a mix between Zelda and Ys.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
I think. I actually think I've always been this opinion ever since I first played it as a kid. I think it's a very underrated soundtrack. I think the music of this game is very good.
I'm not gonna say it's bad because I don't think it's bad, but it's definitely not. It's nowhere near a lot of certain Japanese games that just have amazing sound design.
Oh yeah, sure, I'll agree with that.
Especially for the music. The music is good, but it definitely kind of sounds like something that they took from, you know, like the computer version. They're like, oh, how do we like translate this to the chip inside the SNES or the Super Famicom? Yeah. But it's definitely not bad, but it's not what do you call it? It's not a thing that you would like go to YouTube and listen to and be like, oh yeah, this is BA, man, this is awesome.
Yeah, there are a few songs I do like. There are a few songs in this game I have like my playlist.
Okay.
Not the whole soundtrack, but I just think the music. The music's fine for like playing the game and whatnot. Like a lot of pieces are very upbeat and trippy. So they kind of like help encourage you to to keep going, that kind of stuff. So I actually it's a very, very short piece, but the church piece that plays like go to church to heal up or save your game. That's a very, very good church piece. Like in my opinion, like it really sounds like it really sounds like an organ, I used to make it. So.
And this is not the only game that has done that. There are other games that have that type of organ sounding music, which is nice.
Yeah.
When it comes to games from this era, like Super Famicom, Super Nintendo, I always like listening to the music to hear what they've done with it.
Right.
And when you have stuff like UN Squadron and stuff like that, like it's just the best feeling when you listen to something and it's like they had hardware limitations. They had limitations on what they can do, but they could still compose music that is amazing and something that you can listen to today and be like, this is really good music.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I really like listening in for music in games, because I know there are some certain games that aren't super great, but the music's pretty good.
Oh yeah. There's several games like that. So.
Yeah, but it's really nice to just, because when you start getting to PlayStation era, that they can compose they can do basically anything. They can compose music with actual instruments and everything, and that's great. Like, I'm not taking away from that. That's great too. But when it comes to doing like synthesized music on hardware, I love it when somebody composes something and it sounds amazing.
Yeah, definitely, exactly. I think just staying on the Super NES, I think my favorite example of a great music bad game title for the system has got to be Mystic Quest. Okay. Because the soundtrack, because the soundtrack of that game is great. Like, it's an awesome soundtrack. So the composer of this game was listed as having done some other games, but I couldn't find out any information about him, unfortunately, because there's apparently also a Japanese wrestler who shares the same name as the composer. So all the links go to him. So I'm like, well,
what is this person's name?
Hideki Suzuki.
Okay, all right. Yep, you're gonna have trouble.
Yep.
Did you try typing in the name and then composer, or?
Yeah, I couldn't cut. Yeah, nothing worked.
Oh,
so
that's a shame.
He's listed as having done other games. I assume other Zoom games, but.
And he has a heck of a suplex.
Yes, probably. The English equivalent to being named like Tom Brady, I guess. So, but
yeah, that's kind of an unfortunate combination of a first name and a last name.
Yep. So, the story of this game is very basic, very typical of RPGs like this time period. You play like a young man by the name of Nasir, who has to go out one day to save his town, because Lakeland is having problems with his water. Something's been poisoning all the water in the kingdom.
It was Kefka.
Yeah.
I figured it out. That's it. Do I win the game?
So he needs to go ahead and find the source of and find the source of all this and save the world as he does so. So, there are some there are some bad guys in this game. There are some companions. Like I said, not a bad plot, just very typical, very cookie cutter stuff at this time period.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it gets the job done. It's fine. So, I mean, the gameplay is mostly what people are going to be playing this game for anyway. So, it's not the story.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But, so I mentioned before differences between this and the original X68000 version. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. One thing I think this version was missing, unfortunately, the original computer version had animated cutscenes between game situations.
Oh, what?
Yeah, so I guess they had to take them out. They take them on this version because of space reasons.
Some kind of limitation.
On the plus side, the storyline was arranged a little bit differently because I guess that when I read here, things happened in a kind of out of place order on the original computer version of the game. So it was a bit confusing because you're like, you go to place A to get item B, but then you find out that's not needed to place C, so you have to go somewhere else to get the item for that place. So they cleaned it up to make it more logical and
linear?
streamlined. Yes, linear, like the Super NES version of the game. So
it definitely has a linear feel, but it's so difficult because it's like, it depends on which game. It depends on the game, but like sometimes definitely this game being linear helps a lot.
Oh yeah, sure, I agree with that.
Making every game linear wouldn't be good. There's some games that work better off of being more open, but
Exactly.
this game, yeah, I don't think a lot of people would get from this game if it wasn't linear, because it's just like having a super backtrack and then
Right, exactly.
go ahead, and yeah, it seems like too much.
So the third and last difference between the two versions of the game, and whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing depends upon how you look at it, I suppose. Combat was changed also as a version of the game, because how combat worked in the original computer version of the game was operated very close to how the early Ys games and Hydalide and the Tower Drago worked.
Oh, Hydalide.
Yeah, you just simply to attack the original version of the game, you just drew your sword and you drew your sword and bump to the enemy, and that did damage.
You just run into them.
Yeah. So whereas the Super NES version of the game, you have to actually push the button to swing your sword to attack. So
honestly, I think I like the original way of doing it better, because there's all that thing of timing, and I've actually died when I was a lower level before because my timing was so crap that I would just get murdered, and it's like, no.
Well, on the plus side, I do think combat in this game is mostly easy as long as you get the timing down. I mean, you mentioned already, George, how this is somewhat of an easier game, and it definitely is.
Yeah.
I mean,
look at it. When you're not getting hit, you automatically regenerate your health,
which is great.
I can't think of many games in this era where your health regenerates like that. Usually you would have to get a potion.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are some games where you can get a late game item or piece of armor that will heal you, like Crystallis, like the NES does that. So but yeah, you're right. It definitely is unique. It definitely is unique for this game. I mean, you do have to do some grinding, but not really that much. I think as long as you
grinding's pretty easy too. The at least from as far as I played, the experience cap is actually really not bad.
Yeah, it's up with 20,
you don't have to spend hours on hours trying to level up.
I believe the cap in this game is 16, if I remember correctly.
Well, I mean, every time you level up, the experience required to level up after you just leveled up isn't so much,
right?
Compared to, a bunch of PlayStation RPGs or even modern ones.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's a level cap in this game. Like you can land.
good.
You know,
Yeah.
it is recommended. It is recommended that you get it is recommended that you get the max level before you beat the game, because the bosses can be challenged in this game. You know, especially like especially the final set of bosses. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bosses are where most of your challenges things come from. As long as you explore, take your time. You know, don't shy away from fights and just like, you know, fight. You know, I try to fight as much as you can. You do that pretty well in this game. It's not the easiest action RPG that I play, but it certainly is one of the. It's more down to the bottom of the scale as far as
what is the easiest one you've played?
I actually think Crystallis is a bit easier than this game is.
Okay, that is on the Switch NES.
Yes. Yep. It is.
System thing. What is it called? I don't remember. It's not Virtual Console because that's not what it is.
Yeah.
But I started a game of that and I played 5 minutes and then I went to sleep. I do actually want to play that game. So.
That's actually that game's also one I have a lot of like, you know, nostalgia for, because that's a fun
I believe
game,
that is
so.
A favorite of friend of the show, Will.
I think you're right. Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's also a Game Boy Color remake of that game, which is okay. It's not going to.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not quite as good as the original game, but it's.
What is? I need to ask now. What is the hardest action RPG you have played?
Ooh. Well. Somebody. I just mentioned. You know. I just mentioned like Tower Druga here a bit ago.
Okay.
That's a hard game.
I don't think I played that.
Especially its original arcade version, because that game's a serious quarter muncher.
I mean, those machines like eating money. It's weird.
The console versions are not quite as bad, but they're still like tough games. So,
okay.
But some of the Mana games are pretty challenging too. They definitely can throw you for a loop.
Yes.
So, but so you know, overall, because of the fact this game is pretty linear and not that difficult, it's a relatively short game. You know, average play time to go through it is through the 6 to 10 hour range. So
really, there's a long play on YouTube that's 3 hours long.
Yep. Well, you know, I'm saying first time person who doesn't.
I guess that's true. Yeah,
who doesn't look for any help and that kind of stuff. So, I mentioned how this game earlier. I mentioned how this game earlier was a popular game to speed run. The best time I can find on here. Okay, well, let me say Tool Assistant. The best time I could find was 1 hour and 8 minutes. The best one I can find where the and to answer your question, Awesome Games Done Quick did do this game twice, once in 2012 and once in 2014. So
okay, all right, thanks.
So, 2016 was going back to visit it, but they do not have the best. Yeah, but they do not have the best time. The best time on here from somebody with the handle of the Super NES SNES did the game in 1 hour 22 minutes.
Yeah, I see. So I'm on speedrun.com right now. And, yes, apparently the world record for any percent is 1 hour, 22 minutes, 11 seconds by PJ Di Cesare. And
he did it live on Twitch too. So good for him.
I think all of these people do it live now.
Yeah, nowadays. But this was 4 years ago, and Twitch in 2016 was not as big as it is now. So,
2016 was still pretty big. Honestly, as not to knock you, but as somebody who is into the whole streaming thing,
right.
Twitch was very big in 2016 still.
Having said that, the Awesome Game Done Quick 2016 run's not bad either for time. They did, they did the game in an hour, 29 minutes, and 9 seconds. So
so there's the thing about marathons is that, a lot of those people either, you know, you're not always going to get world record. There are times where people have gotten world record during a marathon.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But there might be some kind of strategy that they had that might be like a 1 in 1,000 chance of happening. So like they throw that out the window and they use stuff that's more like stable, I guess you could say.
Oh, you want to talk about
there's
like,
definitely
you know, like...
there's definitely a bunch of games where it's like, well, this game's gonna take me like 30 minutes longer because like I don't want to try doing this crazy trick during a marathon because then I might have to restart the game. That's the whole thing. Is like also in games done quick and marathons like that, like ESA, European Speedrun Assembly. When they're doing a marathon like that, almost everybody, there are some people that will be like, nah, I got this trick down, and they'll try it, but like there are tricks that could end a run because it might mess up the game, or just might just mess up the run in general, that they want to skip doing because during a marathon you just want to get from point A to point B all the way to the end of the game.
Exactly, right.
So yeah, you don't want to waste time during the marathon.
The classic example of that would be like Super Mario Brothers, because the speed running for that game has gotten insane, like over the last several years.
What is it? It's like a few minutes now or something? I forget.
A few seconds, and like, you know,
I remember. I remember when the news came out that Darbian got that ridiculous time. It's like
because there was
like 3 or 4 people trying to fight for the fastest time.
There's actually, I watched a video on this like a while ago. I don't remember the stage, but you were talking earlier about how like there's a 1 in 1,000 chance of something happening. And one of the stages, if you pull off one of the stages in that game in Super Mario Bros., if you pull off a set of moves exactly perfectly correct, there's there's 1% chance that you can actually skip through a part of the stage and should shave off like 20 seconds. So
Super Mario Brothers, the 80% speedrun is whittled down to 4 minutes 55 seconds 646 milliseconds. That's how this is how insane this run has gotten. Right. That they whittled it down to milliseconds, guys.
Because nowadays,
and this was a day ago. Cosmic got this time a day ago. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't really know speed runners or.
And that difference is probably just
anything, but
yeah, and I can almost
guarantee
you,
fighting with this time here.
And I can almost guarantee you that difference that difference was like by 0.2 microsecond was how much of a difference that it was probably.
Yeah, person in second place is 4 minutes 55 seconds 746 milliseconds.
Yep,
100 milliseconds off.
That's how insane it's gotten these days. So it's just nuts.
It's to what you. There's a lot of patience and a lot of skill in doing the speed run for this game.
Oh yeah, definitely. So
if anyone's ever interested in speed running, it does not matter what game it is, but you should definitely choose something that's short and something you like. Right. Or certainly something you like, because you're going to be playing a lot of it. I actually used to, for a short time, speed run the first Mass Effect game, because you can beat that game in less than 2 hours if you know what you're doing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, which is like a RPG that lasts like at least 10 hours.
No, yeah.
There's a lot of clipping out of the world. It's a thing. Anyway.
Yes.
Lagoon. So, what do we have to say about this game?
Well, what do you think about it? We haven't talked about your opinion yet.
So this game is, I don't know if this will be a game that I would want to see to the end. It just, I don't want to say it's bland, but it like kind of seems maybe a little too simplistic for me. I've been getting some crazy like video game habits. I don't know about habits. Like, I kind of know what I want in a video game, and I don't go crazy all the time. But when I want to sit down and play a game and I want to like get to the end of it, this game is just like kind of not really one of those games. It was like a nice experience to see what was put out in that era, and it's always nice to see what games have come out back then. But this is, I don't know, it's just not my type of game. Maybe.
Yeah,
it's not
I mean, like,
hard.
you know,
It's definitely not hard.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that.
And I don't
for
have
sure.
a problem with that. I really do like action RPGs, but
Yeah.
I don't know. So I have this really weird thing where for a while I'll be like super into old games, and like maybe I'll like go through a couple of Final Fantasies and stuff like that. You know, maybe I'll look for old games that I've never even heard of before that, you know, that seem like something that I would want to get through or whatever. And then there's times where for months on end I'll just play newer games. So
Right.
I guess I could say that my taste kind of changes a lot with games, but I don't think anytime soon I'll be coming back to this game to try to get to the end. And that's not saying that it's a bad game. It's just something that hasn't like super grabbed me, and it's kind of hard to for me to find a game that does really grab me. But currently right now I'm in an era of little more modern games that have, you know, some kind of gimmick or mechanic that kind of older games don't have.
Sure.
I mean, I am still playing through Final Fantasy V and stuff like that, but
Right,
it's
yep.
mostly modern games right now. I blame the Xbox Game Pass because it gets me a lot of games, and I could just breeze through them and be like, nah, I don't know if I want to play this anymore. I don't know if I want to play this. Oh, here's a good one, and then I'll just sit there and play it for hours on end.
Right. Yeah. Yep. No, definitely. I agree. Nope. I totally understand where you're coming from. I can certainly agree with like a lot of that.
I got back into the Fable games recently.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we talked about that with Mike. You're right. So, but yeah, good stuff there. So, yeah. So, yeah, Lagoon. I don't think it. Yeah, Lagoon has not aged terribly well in some ways. I think. It does show its age.
I don't think it's
certainly
really
very much.
that bad. Like, I don't want to say it's not perfectly aged well, but it's also like when I played this game, it wasn't like hopping into a game that was so dated or anything. This
Right,
is,
yeah.
Honestly, this almost feels like an indie game today. It almost feels like an indie game that somebody made because they loved Ys or Zelda or something. This almost feels like a reference to older games, and I guess that might be why I got into it easier than some other games we played on this podcast.
Yeah, the gameplay really is not. Their gameplay really is not that much different between then than an action RPG of now. So
yeah.
I mean, maybe some more bells and whistles with the gameplay on a modern action RPG game, but it's still. But the core mechanics are still the same essentially. So I mean, this is a genre that's not really changed all that much over the years. So I mean, when I call the game dated, I meant like how like. The game's short. The game's linear. The game is a very simplistic plot. The graphics are just meh. So
I mean, when it comes to game length, like now, can that really be considered dated? Because how many indie games now can you play that are only a few hours long?
Well, the difference
If
also
even.
the difference also is the price point, because remember this game came out
right.
this game was $50 when it came out. So.
Right, but the ease of accessibility now of this game, doesn't that kind of change an opinion you can have? Sure, you can go back in time and pay $50, $60, $70 for this game and say, this is kind of way too short for the price point, but nowadays you can emulate it and stuff like that. Does that really come into consideration? Like, you can argue that, but does it really come into consideration now that it is so easily accessible?
Yeah, maybe.
See, like, maybe that's the thing. Like, thinking about, like, how much was this when this came out is the question.
Probably like $40, $50, typical price of Super NES game.
Yeah, so, like, if you want to kind of, like, give a rating on this game back then, taking into consideration of the price point, yeah, it is kind of short for the price point, but nowadays, if you want to check out a Super Nintendo game and maybe you don't have too much time, or maybe you don't want to put too much time into, well, like, whatever your reason is, like maybe this is something you would want to check out, because it's not super long, it's not super confusing or anything. It's kind of maze-like with the dungeons, but otherwise, you know, I mean, you're not like, if you're not buying a physical copy and playing it on your console, you're not really paying anything, so it doesn't even hurt to try.
Right.
But yeah, you bring up a good point with the whole price point thing. I would like to think that the game nowadays, if you want to buy a cartridge of it, isn't that expensive.
Yeah, we'll get into the pricing of this like just a moment. So
right.
I was able to actually look. I was poking around here like a little bit. I found a fan site of this game that's still up.
Okay.
Hasn't been updated since 2013, but there's still like, you know, some very good information on the game, like online, which I found.
What's curious.
The URL? It is. I'll toss it to you here in the link. It's pretty simple. It's just a Mike'sRPGcenter.com. So.
Oh, I've gone to this place before.
Yeah. I also realized I did not check Moby Games like for this, and I found, and so I was able to locate information like on the composer. He also went by the name of Naizo Uemote.
I don't know if you should go to this website. My anti-malware is blocking this site.
Mine didn't, so.
It says website blocked due to a Trojan. Just a warning, just in case.
Okay, fair enough. But
yeah.
Anyway, this composer's still active. This composer did music for the like most recent WWE games. He did music for Dynasty Warrior 6 and 7.
Wait, what do you mean the most recent WWE games? They just licensed music.
He has been part of the this guy's actually worked like multiple teams and multiple teams over the years. For those games, he worked in the programming and engineering as a team. So
okay.
Games he's done music for include games I've not heard of, but he has the music for other games.
What games are they?
Radnagar, Stakes Winners 2, Deadly Moves, and Genocide.
Oh, I haven't heard of any of those.
I haven't either.
What a great name. Wait, did you say Genocide?
Genocide, yes.
What a great name for a game. And that's me being ironic, because that sounds awful.
According to Moby, Genocide's also a Zoom game. That explains why weird. Okay.
The
music for it. It was a 1989 game for the Sharp and TurboGrafx CD. It is an anime style mecha side-scrolling action game.
Oh, okay.
So very what's another like big anime mech game? I'm trying to think about. Kind of sort of like that, but not.
My mind is almost always on Front Mission.
Not the series I'm thinking about, but it works. So
they need to bring that series back, like real bad.
Right.
I'm still playing through 4, and I'm waiting to play 5.
Right. Yep. So, anyway, yeah. So, yeah. No, I agree with. Yes, I agree with a lot what you said. I mean, parts of the game I don't think aged very well, but the game is still a very competent action RPG game. If you're looking for like a basic short game of this genre, this game's pretty good for that. So. I could not find any contemporary reviews of the game like when it first came out way back when, but modern reviews of this game are all over the place. It can score as highly as some places. I'm seeing here a score as high as 79%, and I'm seeing here a score as low as 20%. So. Really all over the place as far as reviews go. I guess it just depends upon the factors we've already talked about. When your tolerance for games of this type and how much you like older games, like and whatnot. So, So anyway, so because of that, this game is not very expensive. Expensive on eBay. This is actually one of the cheaper games to get actually. 84 copies currently listed. 37 copies that I recently sold. You can these prices include shipping. You can snag a card in this game, a game for anywhere from $6.50 to $18. So
that's really not bad.
No, it's not. CIB is not that bad either. CIB can range anywhere from $17 to $50 to get this game complete.
Wow.
There was even a sealed copy of the game I sold recently. It sold very cheap because it was a very rough. It was because it was a very rough copy of the game. Not only did it look the box got beat around a bit, but the reason they call it shrink wrap is because over time it will eventually shrink and will eventually damage the box because because the wrap's actually shrinking as time passes. That's why a lot of people who collect sealed games.
Is that due to the heat or what?
Combination of factors. Could be the heat. Could be the fact of the manufacturing. Could just be because the fact it's so tight that the shrink wrap's not designed to. The shrink wrap's not supposed to be on there for years and years.
I mean, so you could fix that, but you'd have to rip open the shrink wrap.
I was just gonna say a lot of steel collectors will get around that problem by opening up like one side of the we'll fix that by opening up the one side of the box.
I can't be a sealed collector because I just couldn't, because like if something was damaged or whatever, I was just like, I need to fix it, or maybe I don't have another copy of the game and be like, I want to play it though. So I can't be a sealed collector, but
yeah, I can't either. So
yeah.
But anyway, because those factors, the sealed copy of this game are that sold recently on eBay, sold at very cheap, $25.
Oh, okay.
So, it has not been re-released in any format as far as I can tell. Which goes to show this is a pretty forgotten game, I think, these days, because Chemical Seek was never a very big company. Most people associate them with Shadowgate and like other games. This came out very early in systems. This game came out very early in the system's life. Not a lot of podcasts have covered it. Mine's popularity of the speedrunning community.
This podcast has.
Yes.
I don't know why I'm pointing at myself. I should be pointing at you. But I can't point at you because you're not here.
Yes. Well, so but anyway, so it's pretty much a forgotten game these days, which I think explains why the game sells for so cheap online.
Yeah.
So,
it's a forgotten game.
Yep. No cheats or tips I can find. The game is very very well programmed.
Not really no need for cheats, really. This game is easy enough.
Yeah, minus a couple places. So, but
yeah, of course.
But I mean, you may need to walk through it at one point or another just to figure out where something is, and whatnot. Maps can come in handy for some of the areas, of course. But outside of that, like we've talked about, this game's not overly difficult. So, so if you're looking for bottom line, if you're looking for like an older style action RPG game that's pretty easy, this is this is going to pick up. So, faults aside, it's not the worst game in the genre the genre out there, not by a long shot.
No, this is definitely nowhere near the worst.
Decent game. I want to go back to after all these years. I'm probably not going to play it again, but definitely is. Definitely is a nice game to see how things have changed, or some ways not changed over the years as far as the genre goes. Because like I mentioned before, the basic fundamental gameplay is still the same now as it was like 30 years ago as far as action RPG games go. So, but anyway, any final thoughts about this game, George? Before we move on to the closing.
I don't know. If you're interested in playing this game, I think you should give it a try. No need to buy a cart. I mean, no, totally buy the cart. I don't know.
if you want to buy cards cheap,
the cops are pointing a gun at me right now. You totally can't emulate it. But I mean, like, I think this might be a game worth checking out to see if you like it or not.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the best, but it's definitely nowhere near the worst. Maybe like a mid-tier game, maybe a little bit better than that.
Yep, definitely. So, but no, I agree with that 100%. So, anyway, we thank you very much for listening to this episode as always. If you have any feedback, comments, questions, suggestions for future games, you can find us on the Facebook page, or you can also send me an email directly if you want to. The email used for this podcast is the SNES podcast at yahoo.com. We also have a Patreon, where for $1 a month, you can get cool benefits such as being shouted out at the end of every episode, as I'm doing right now for Corey and David. Thank you guys. Early access to episodes, and also being able to dictate a game for us to play. We are covering a guest request game next time. We're actually having guest host on here talk about the game with us. So we are going to be talking about Killer Instinct, which is a game I played a lot in the arcades. But I do not have, but I don't think I've ever actually tried the Super NES port of the game, so this should be interesting.
Have you played the Xbox One version?
No, I haven't.
All right, it's also on PC. It's free.
I heard bad things about it though.
Oh, I have not played it. I'm not a fighting game guy, but I'd like to check out this version of it.
Yeah, no, there was a Killer Instinct arcade cab like in our small student union game room at college for a year. So
that's cool.
So like played a lot of it there because of that reason. So it's fun against the people. So I just never checked it. So I've heard the Super NES version's well done. I've never actually played it though, so I'm curious. I don't
think I've ever played KI in general.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. I mean, like for I remember, it's very solid, well put together a fighting game. So
you know what I have played out in the wild? I found a cab for what is it called? Primal Rage.
Oh yeah, that's
I've played that before in arcade form, like literal, like actual physical arcade cab.
Yeah, Primal Rage is fun.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool game.
There was actually a sequel to that game that got to the prototype stage before it got canceled. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, there's the ROM of that's now floating around like online. I think people. I think people who found it and dumped it. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, because the game was just about ready to come out like when Midway shut down the Atari, the Atari branch.
Oh
so,
yeah.
So that's why it never came out. But Primal Rage is a game I played a lot of also because my fun spot in New Hampshire in the 90s when I went to college had one. So I spent a lot of time there, by playing that one. So anyway, George, people want you. How can they contact you?
You could do so through Twitter if you're interested. My username on there is @_derpkin_ @_DERPKITTEN_. I might change that. I have no idea what I'm doing with that. Anyway, that's what it is currently anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And honestly, that's about it.
Yep. Okay. So, final thought. I didn't realize this as a kid, but now, like when I'm 2020 looking at it, the name of the game actually makes a lot of sense because
it has to do with the water.
Right, yeah, because Lagoon is a calm body of pure water usually, and the plot of this game revolves around trying to purify and save the water in your kingdom. So, it fits very well.
Are you saying you finally have 20/20 vision?
I suppose so, but so anyway, we'll see you again. We'll see you again next time, guys. And thank you all very much for listening as always.
See ya.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Now you're playing with power. Super power.